this generation of kids are going to be the leaders of the country in the years to come.
The show is called Generation Next.
Generation Next, and it's essentially about
today's generation and the problems that we're facing today.
It's about, this upcoming generation of kids.
It's called Generation Next.
There are too many demands on the person right now.
Basically, we're trying to design a show that's catered towards members.
It touches on the heavy requirement of people in everyday life now.
average college student. They're texting somebody with one hand, they're eating a microwave bean burrito with the other, they're aiming somebody, they're checking their Facebook updates, and they're writing their 10-page term paper all at the same time while drinking a Coke, and it's just like,
it just takes too much. These days it just takes too much.
So Generation Next came up as this idea of what is basically the future and what can these kids do?
They're just born to multitask, really.
so the show is essentially a way of bringing that concept to our realm of marching percussion.
The idea that we thought about all summer long is like, well, we obviously have to push this ensemble a lot.
This show is the hardest show I have ever seen.
John and Ian wrote probably a show that's about twice as hard as last year.
Every single part of the ensemble, the standard has been raised.
I think that was the biggest challenge, was to figure out how to outdo ourselves as designers and writers and as teachers.
The musical demands of the show are incredibly high.
So the whole idea this year was just to come out swinging. If we're going to defend the title, we got to come out swinging, and we got to be nonstop the whole time.
When you have to sit and watch 20 independent world drumlines, it's like what sticks out, what's memorable.
There are 3 stick tosses in the show in the first 45 seconds.
We spend the first minute of our show playing with one stick.
The kids are all on cell phones, which they always are anyways, during rehearsal even. It's like, put your phone away. But that's kind of the whole joke.
No one just sits and studies anymore. Everyone's multitasking and no one's staying focused on what they got to do.
They are able to do all of these things at one time, and you can bounce a book on top of your head and still play and still catch it, and guess what? They're not breaking a sweat doing it. So it's something that might not have even been possible 10 years ago. It's really, kids and actually the activity have really matured and come a long way in this new generation.
There's always something else going on. It's never just straight up marching band.
In this third segment we have, it's all about the older generation looking and judging the younger generation.
The older drum corps, snare drummer mentality of, kids these days, they're just running around, they're dancing, they're just doing all this stuff. They're not just standing still and playing drums like we used to do. Like, the snare lines don't just come out and just play clean and just nail it.
There's a line that says, I miss the days when people used to just stand still and lay it out there. And the tenors are just standing there still,
And nobody's moving. They're just standing there and they're playing.
It's like, hey, we can do that too. We can do that. A couple other ideas in the show, there's the idea of, kids these days are lazy, and that inspires this cymbal feature where they're jumping over the snare drums, they never stop, smashing on each other's cymbals, having fun, getting the audience involved. And we really take a look at what has the older generation really left, given right now to the younger generation. And when you take a step back, it's like, things aren't so great in the world.
Even all the natural disasters that are going on, like the world's an ever-changing place, that these kids are being faced with these problems.
People have to still be able to figure out a way to make the world better, and those people are this generation.
These are the guys that has to do something about it.
Looking at the future, right before your eyes. With this generation, we can make things right.
We're not going to settle because we saw our parents settle.
In 10 years, we'll be looking back to see what Generation Next did accomplish and what did change.